Hi, and welcome to Take Time to Create. This is where we take time out of our everyday lives to create new and wonderful things. So here is a mirror that I'm going to start with as my base for this mixed media project. I found this mirror at Who Gives a Scrap, and there's a back on the mirror too. I could take this back off and take the mirror out, but I'm not going to for this project because I'm just going to work on top of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fabric mixed media on top of the sunshine, and I'm going to make it into a sun. It just seems very appropriate to make the sun mirror into a sun. This is not my aesthetic. This sun is not quite my style. So I liked the shape of it, and so that's why I purchased it from Who Gives a Scrap. And when you're doing mixed media projects, look for the shape of something. I liked the shape of this because I'm going to add fabric on top of it, and I'm going to make it look like a sun. You want to also look for things that are really sturdy. If this was just flimsy cardboard, it wouldn't work because with mixed media, you're adding a ton of layers on. And this is pretty sturdy. It is plastic. I thought about painting the edges black, but I'm going to leave them this gold color because I think the gold really matches the sun and the look I'm going for. So I'm leaving the edges. I'm going to try my best to keep my fingers off of there so it doesn't get all dirty and mucky. But if it does, I can always touch it up and paint it a different color if I have to. I'm using fabric that I got from Annie's Fabric Club. It was mailed to me, not sponsored. I purchased it. And I really like the colors. These are just two of the 4 or 5 colors that came in the package. These are just gorgeous, and I thought they were perfect for a sunshine. For the base layer, so I'm going to put a layer of gloss heavy gel. This is Liquitex. I'll smear that on, and then I'm going to dip each piece of fabric into gloss gel and wring it out. Just like all my other mixed media, that's going to be the same process. So I'll just speed up this part of the video, and you'll just see it's the same thing over and over again. That really creates a good bond between the fabric and whatever I'm adhering it to, adding those two pieces to it. I'm not sure how much I'm going to need to build up, and I'm not sure how these little rays are going to work out, but I'm going to just kind of finagle it and play with it and see what happens. So let's get started. As I'm starting, I forgot to mention that I did rough up all of the edges just a little bit because I wanted this gel medium to really adhere. So if you've got a shiny, smooth, glossy edge, go ahead and make sure you just take some sandpaper or emery board or something to rough it up. And then clean it up really well with damp cloth or tack cloth or something like that. And I already did that off camera. I just forgot to mention it to you. So there's my first layer, and this is the heavy gel medium. And I'm just kind of smearing it all around. And this will dry pretty clear. So I really like this. So if you can see it through the fabric, it's not going to mess up my aesthetic very much. And I'm just gonna kind of start here and add more as I go. So I have the basic structure now done with the fabric on there. So now what I'm doing is I'm kind of going around the edges and I'm just trying to make sure things are covered up that I want covered up. I've got the definition that I want going on. The edges are, you know, a flat edge. There's some spikes going on. So I'm kind of just shaping things as I go, because now is the time to shape it. If you don't get things where you want at this point, it's impossible to move it because you have two different types of, well, they're glue basically, artist's grade glue. People ask me all the time, oh, you just glued on fabric onto stuff. Well, kind of. It's all artist grade because I want it to last, I want it to stay, and you know, well, it is glue. We are adhering things, but that's a little oversimplified for my liking. Puff up things as you go because you really want that texture. You want the fabric to really come alive at this point. Now, also, I really love this fabric because the way the dye is on this fabric, and I don't know what it is or I don't know any details about it, but it looks pretty similar on the right side and the wrong side. So if you accidentally put the wrong side up, which I do all the time, it's not going to really disrupt the flow of your piece. And I'm just kind of going around, I'm fluffing things up, making sure that the fabric is touching, that it's not lifted up above. Because if it's up, like this piece here, I'm just fixing it. If it's up and it's not touching the plastic sun, the base, it will have a chance of lifting up, or stuff can get underneath, dirt and dust and yucky. And you don't want that. So just kind of take a couple minutes and really make sure it looks good. Because now is your opportunity to really make it look cool. And while everything is at this wet stage, I wanted to add some, it's a copper color, but I wanted to add some yarn. And this is a copper color. And I'm not going to soak it in gel medium, but what I'm going to do first, actually, before I do this, I'm going to take my gloves off. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go around all the edges and kind of clean up the glue that oozed out. And that will smooth my edges and make them look a little better. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes and do that before I add that yarn. So the top, the little hanger is up here at the top. So I'm going to kind of use that. I'm going to leave a long tail so I can tie it behind. And I wanted to start defining some of the edges. So what I'm going to kind of do is just wrap this all over. Not worrying about, is it perfect? Not worrying about if it's even. And then when I have this wrapped to my satisfaction, I'm going to need to go and fix the points up again at the very end, because things get squished around. Okay, one more, and there we go. I like that a lot. All right. Oh. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to tie this. I like the copper with the red and the, well, it's kind of like an orange and the yellow. I think the copper really works well together. A gold would work too. Lots of choices. And doing this at this phase will really adhere it down, and it'll keep it sticking. So, all right, so this stage is done. I'm going to straighten up the edges just a little bit, but I'm going to let it dry overnight, and then we're going to add all kinds of goodies on top. So after it's dry, I'll be right back. So I'm back, and this is all dry. It dried overnight. If you leave it for a couple days, that's fine, but you want to make sure it's nice and dry. Sometimes if you're not careful, and I always like to show this, you'll get some globs of glue that doesn't dry quite clear. That's okay. You can just pick it off with some scissors, or you can paint over it. I just picked it off with my fingernail, and now it's fine. So you want to know where the top is, and my top is right here. I'm just going to take a piece of shiny washi tape and put that on the top, and that way I know where the top is, and I can base my composition around the top of the sun. My composition is going to be more in a circle rather than, you know, something off to the side. I'm going to do pretty balanced, but in case it's not, I definitely want to know where my top is. The first step I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Art Alchemy. This is a Finnabair, and these are acrylic paint sparks. This is Ginger Magic, and it's a really pretty orangey color. What I'm doing is I'm going to use mixed metals on this, and I'm going to use the metal colors, but I'm going to go more on the warm side rather than the cool side. So I'm going to stay in the coppers and the bronzes and the warm gold rather than the cool gold. I didn't want to stick with just one color because, well, that's kind of boring, and I just like to mix things up. At any point when you're doing your project, remember, you can stop at any point. I just like to keep going, and I'm just putting a little bit of sparks everywhere just to add some shimmer and shine. Not everybody likes to add all the detail that I like to add, but that's completely fine. This is your project. Do whatever you want. I think if I were to do this again, I would add the string on after I paint, and that's just because the string isn't really stuck down and it tied really nicely. I just didn't know how it was going to work, but it's fine. I'm painting over it a little bit, no big deal. And in some spots you get a little bit too much, just take your baby wipe and wipe it up a little bit, and then it's fine. The next step is I'm going to add some chipboard, and these are, they're called nested chipboard frames, Cuddles by Everlasting Keepsake. I got it for $1 at Who Gives a Scrap. And when you open it up, you have these nesting flowers. They're chipboard, and I think it's absolutely perfect to put in the center like this. And then this is the inside of the petals. And so I'm going to do both of these, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint these, and I think I'm going to do a combination of painting them with some brass hardware, and this is metallic paint from Finnabair, and it is Art Alchemy. Brass hardware, and yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. I might add some ginger sparks on top, maybe Dragonite, I'm not sure, but I'll probably just leave it with this. Don't know until you start painting, and I just like to tell you guys exactly what I'm doing. All right, move that aside. I have a Teflon mat here, so I could just go to town painting on it. All right, so now this is all painted in the brass hardware, and don't forget your edges because you will be able to see them. I dried it real quick with the heat tool. I'm going to use the Gloss Heavy Gel to adhere all my elements on. I just really like it. I think it will keep things really secure. And you want to be able to glob this on. Then I'm going to take the solid pieces and I'm going to put those in the middle too. And since this is chipboard, it really doesn't take a ton to adhere it down. Now, mixed media is so much fun because you can use whatever you have in your stash. Use all kinds of things and just build up layers. So what you want to think about is what's on your bottom layer and then build up from there. You want to have a focal point, something that you're looking at. For me, I'm going to use some Prima flowers, and these are beautiful and they're perfect in yellows and oranges. And I have some that are out of their little containers. So I'm going to use these beautiful flowers as the beginning of my focal point. So I really like odd numbers in my composition. So I'm just going to use 3 flowers and adhere those down. And the yellows are slightly different. I don't know if you can really tell in the light. So I'm going to adhere those down, and then I'm just going to start tucking in elements. I have metal elements that I'll be using, and I have these colorful gems, just like rhinestones I'll be using. I'll be using some mechanicals, maybe these stars. We'll see what we have. And I might use some gems. I'm not sure. I'm going to see how it goes. I don't know if I need the red or not for balance. Because I have orange and yellow, I might need red. I have little metal elements that I'm just playing with here. And at the very end, I don't know, we're going to see as I go. And I'll link everything I possibly can in the description box. But if you see me sprinkling things, I'll be sprinkling some fragments. These are mica fragments, and I have bronze and a copper mix and a yellow. Not sure what I'm going to need. Or I might do some micro beads. We're just going to kind of see. We're going to play, see how this all turns out, and I'm just going to trial and error and set things down and lift them up. But that's kind of what I'm going to be going for with what I'm using. I take a lot of my metal elements and I cut them in half, especially when they're the thin metal, and so then I can use them, you know, as I stick things in. And I've already got things, you know, spreading out, so I'm going to build up the center, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm just gonna go to town. All right, I'm nearing to the end of this layer. And what I love are these gears that you can get just about anywhere. And I love to slip those in. They're just the perfect size. And they just kind of tuck in here and there just to kind of fill things out. So what I like to do is, if there's anything that's oozing out, I just take a baby wipe, wipe it up. At this stage, I do like to kind of press on everything to make sure it's good and secure, that it's not going anywhere. It's going to shift a little bit because it's still wet, but I like to look at it, and then I like to kind of tilt it and make sure I've got some symmetry. I have my balance going on. What I'm going to do first is take a piece of paper, put it underneath, and I'm going to take some micro beads, and I think this will be perfect because I don't think the mica flakes are what I'm going for right now. And I'm just going to kind of pour beads where I have some of the gel still kind of wet. That way I'm getting texture, and that if the gel doesn't dry 100% clear, I'm going to have some texture on top of it. All right, so we're on to the next step. The micro beads are dry, and I did move around the flowers. I have 2 oranges and a yellow. I did that all before it was dry, but I think having 2 oranges really kind of bring it together a little more. So now what we're going to do is add some waxes. And I think the waxes will kind of just bring it all together because everything is going to be waxed. I feel it's a little choppy. And I have the Finnabair Art Alchemy metallic waxes in colored aged brass, vintage gold, and bronze age. We're going to start with the gold because I just think that's a warm, sunny color. And you take your brush, and I just have a stipple brush here. This is a plaid stenciling brush. And you just take it and you warm it up on your hand a little bit. I took a class with Finnabair, and this is what she did, and what a great little technique. I was like, what? That is so brilliant. Now I am just taking this, and I'm not hitting the gems because I still want them to be nice and shiny, and I'm not hitting the flowers either, but I am grabbing a little bit on the fabric. I'm gonna go in and around, turn things around. A little bit goes a long way. All right, now the waxes are all on. It adds this really beautiful sheen to everything. Very excited about it. I'm covering up the flowers because I don't want them splattered, because I'm going to use Folk Art Chocolate Brown Metallic Paint and Solid Bronze Metallic Paint. And I have a palette here. I put some of the paint in there and I added some water and I'm mixing it around. I'm using darker metallic colors because I really want them to show up. And you just load your brush up, and then you just have another brush and you just kind of tap it around. I think the splatters really bring it together. All right, seriously guys, splatters are the best thing, but look at my hand. My hand is a mess. I love it. It's perfect. I did get a splatter on my rose. I'm going to kind of see if I can blot it off. There we go. I don't mind it on the edges, but that one spot where it was, I didn't love that. If you have any splatters anywhere you don't want, just take a baby wipe and it'll mop up most of it. Okay, the splatters are all done. I love it. It's really kind of hard to see. Love it. Oh, I think this turned out so cool. So look for things that can be your base and then just build up from there. I am super happy with how this turned out. Very cute. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up. You can find me online on my blog, on Instagram, and on Facebook. I have 2 Instagrams. I have Take Time to Create, which is all of my crafty goodies, and I have Linda's Journey 78, which is my personal journey, if you'd like to follow me there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.